Listen up. This is not a story for the faint of heart, nor is it for those who still cling to the illusion that the world will give them a chance if they just stay quiet long enough. No, this is a story for warriors. People who are tired of being told they are not enough. People who are done shrinking themselves to fit into someone else's narrow, suffocating expectations. This is the moment you realize the most powerful thing you can do is take the lead in your own life. Well, you've been told to follow, to wait, to be patient, to hold back, because that's what they want. They want you to shrink, to be small, to doubt your own strength. Their ego, the one that keeps them comfortable, the one that lets them tell you your place, can't survive in the face of someone who dares to lead. And when you step forward, when you stop asking for permission to rise, their ego shatters. This isn't about revenge. It's not about proving them wrong. It's about realizing that their opinions don't matter because they were never in charge of your story. This is about you. This is about understanding that no one, not your parents, not your boss, not your peers, gets to dictate the terms of your life. You are the one who holds the pen, the one who controls the direction. I'm not here to sugarcoat it. The path won't be easy. There will be moments when you question everything, when the world seems to be pushing back against your every move. But I promise you this, the moment you take the lead, the moment you stop allowing anyone's ego to dictate your worth, the world will bend around you. And those who once looked down on you will be the ones scrambling to figure out how they lost their grip on you in the first place. It's time to face the truth. Their ego only exists as long as you let it. The moment you claim your power, you shatter that illusion. You take the lead. And that's when your life transforms, when you realize that you've always had everything you needed to succeed. And it was never about waiting for someone else to tell you that you could. It's about stepping up and doing it yourself. So, what are you waiting for? The world is ready for you to rise. And when you do, their ego will crumble, and all that's left will be your greatness. Let me ask you something, and I need you to answer honestly. What are you waiting for? Are you waiting for the perfect moment? For the world to align? For things to finally fall into place? Are you waiting for permission from someone else to chase your dreams, to step into your greatness? Or have you convinced yourself that you're not ready, that you're not good enough, that somehow the stars haven't lined up in your favor? Listen, this waiting is killing you. Every day you spend waiting for someone else to give you the go-ahead is another day you hand over control of your life. Remember, what are you waiting for? When was the last time you truly took the lead? When was the last time you said, enough, and stepped up to claim what was always yours? I know what you're thinking. I know the doubts crawling inside your head. It's not that easy. You're right. It's not easy. It never was. And that's exactly why it's so important. But let me be clear. You are never going to rise until you stop waiting for someone to give you the permission you already own. You've been stuck in a loop listening to the voices of those who tell you to stay in your lane, who tell you that you don't deserve the spotlight, that you should follow the rules, play by the script. But here's the truth. Those voices are not yours. Those voices belong to the ego of everyone who's threatened by the power you have inside you. The power they know could shatter everything they've built. The villain in your life, it's not you, it's not your failure, it's not your lack of ability. The villain is the ego of others. The ego that makes them feel comfortable when they can tell you to stay small. The ego that expects you to apologize for your ambitions, for your desires, for your truth. You've been letting them control your narrative. They told you to follow, to stay quiet, to be content with mediocrity. And little by little, they have chipped away at your sense of self, told you your dreams are too big, too audacious, too dangerous for someone like you. How many times have you heard, you're too much, you're not enough, know your place? How many times have you bowed your head, played small, stepped aside just to keep the peace? How many times did you allow their ego to dictate your life? This is where the shift happens, right here, right now. The question is no longer, what are you waiting for? The question is, why are you still letting them hold the strings? Look at your life right now. Where are you feeling stuck? Where are you silencing your own voice, bending to someone else's idea of who you should be? Do you feel the weight of their gaze on you, telling you that you're not enough or that you're too much? Do you feel them pulling you down when you try to rise? That's their ego, trying to keep you in your place, keeping you from stepping up and showing the world who you really are. Dr. Y, and I'm telling you this, you've been listening to them for too long. I get it. I know what it's like to feel small, to feel like you don't have a seat at the table, to feel like your dreams are too big and too scary for anyone else to understand. But here's the thing, those fears are not yours. They were put there by people who never believed in themselves enough to believe in you. They were put there by people who built their own identities on telling you that you can't. But guess what? They are not in control of your destiny. You are. Take a deep breath, close your eyes for just a moment. Picture the life you want. Picture the person you could be if you stopped letting their ego hold you down. Picture what it would feel like to step forward, to stop apologizing, to finally own your space and say, "This is mine." Feel that rush of power. That's not a fantasy. That's the truth of who you are, buried under layers of doubt, fear, and other people's expectations, and it's time to uncover it. Because here's what's happening. Their ego has been protecting them, but now it's time for you to step into your own. They thought they could control you. They thought they could keep you playing by their rules, shrink you into something manageable, something they could handle. They've come to their senses, and if we don't find a way to profile you and exterminate you, you'll succumb. You'll disappear. But they don't get to decide that anymore. Their ego, their fear, their control, their manipulation, it only survives as long as you let it. The moment you stop asking for permission is the moment you break free. The moment you take the lead is the moment their ego shatters. So look around, see the places where you're still held back. Those aren't the walls of your limitations. They are the walls built by others who are too afraid to see you shine. What are you going to do about it? Now is your time. You've been holding back for far too long, waiting for a sign, waiting for someone to tell you that you're worthy. But let me tell you something. That sign is you. You are the one you've been waiting for. It's time to take the lead. So I'll ask you again. What are you waiting for? Are you ready to lead? Because the moment you do, everything changes. You've spent so much of your life walking in someone else's shadow. You know the feeling, the weight of someone else's gaze, the pull of their expectations wrapping around you like chains. You've bent and twisted yourself to fit their narrow vision of who you should be. You've smiled when you wanted to scream. You've been quiet when your soul screamed to be heard. I'd rather scream for my beloved to survive, Coley thinks under his breath. The people in the room shoot brief glances at Coley before turning his head. When he drops it, his arm crafts Uzi into the air. Every time you've tried to step forward, you've felt their cold, suffocating hand press you back into place. Their judgment, their whispers, their disapproving gaze. You've felt it all, and it's exhausting. It's like being trapped in a room where the walls are closing in, the air growing thinner, but you can't escape. You've tried to break free, to breathe your own air, to carve out your own space, but every time the walls seem to tighten even more. And you wonder if there's any air left to breathe at all. You can hear the voices around you, telling you what to do, who to be, how to act. But none of it feels like you. You've been trying so hard, haven't you? You've tried to make them happy, to earn their approval, to meet standards that were never yours to begin with. You've given everything, your time, your energy, your self-respect, in an endless pursuit of something that always feels just out of reach. And still, you're left feeling empty. It's a feeling that creeps up on you like a shadow that never leaves. At first, it's subtle, just a whisper of doubt, a quiet nudge that maybe, just maybe, you're not enough. But over time, that whisper grows louder until it's all you can hear. You start to believe it. You start to believe that maybe their version of you is the only one that matters. And in the process, you lose yourself. You forget what it feels like to want something just for you. You do everything to push for the smallest bite of the apple. You forget what it feels like to pursue a dream, because it sets your soul on fire, not because it will win someone else's approval. You've been playing their game, but it's not even your game to win. This is where the pain begins. It's like walking in a fog that never lifts. Every day, a haze of confusion, frustration, and regret. You don't even know who you are anymore, because all you've known for so long is how to serve their needs, how to meet their expectations. They've made you feel so small, so invisible, and yet, you've let them. It's not just the critics. It's not just the manipulative voices that keep you in line. It's also your own voice. But the one that echoes their doubts, their criticisms, their judgments. The one that tells you that you'll never be good enough, that you don't have what it takes. You thought you were weak for doubting yourself, but I'm telling you now, it's not you, it's them. Their ego planted those seeds of insecurity in your mind, and now you're walking around like a puppet, bound by invisible strings. The villain? It's not just them, it's your own fears, your own insecurities, the ones they planted in you, that you watered with your own self-doubt. They've told you who to be, what to wear, how to think, and where to go. But here's the thing you don't want to admit. You've been listening to them for far too long. And the worst part, you've convinced yourself that it's your fault, that the problem is you, that maybe if you were just a little bit better, a little bit more like they want you to be, you'd finally get their approval. You'd finally earn the place you've been fighting for. But that place is a cage. They built it for you, and the moment you step inside, you lose yourself. Do you remember the last time you felt truly seen? It might have not been you, but thank God that inside people see you, and they see you. When was the last time someone looked at you and saw you, not the person they wanted you to be, not the version you've become just to survive, but you, all of you, as you truly are? Can you remember what it felt like to be enough just by being you? You don't need to wait for someone else to see you. You need to see yourself. And yet, how many times have you stared into the mirror and felt nothing but disappointment? How many times have you looked at the person staring back at you and wondered, who am I, really? What have I become? The person in the mirror is a reflection of years of bending, compromising, silencing yourself. They look tired, don't they? Exhausted from the endless fight to meet the expectations of others. You've been running on empty for so long, you don't even know what it feels like to be full anymore, to be whole, to be free. But I need you to understand something. This pain, this exhaustion, it's not your fault. You've been taught to be this way. You've been conditioned to believe that your worth comes from someone else's approval. But what if it's all a lie? What if you were never meant to live in the shadows of others? Wow! What if you were always meant to rise and lead, to step into your own light and finally say, I am enough, I am worthy of this. And yet, how many times have you stared into the mirror and felt nothing but disappointment? How many times have you looked at the person staring back at you and wondered, who am I really? What have I become? The person in the mirror is a reflection of years of bending, compromising, silencing yourself. They look tired, don't they? Exhausted from the endless fight to meet the expectations of others. There are still to come those of us who doubt ourselves. And yet this phenomenon has yet to become assumed out of disregard for the unclaimed. Yes, you've been running on empty for so long, you don't even know what it feels like to be full anymore. To be whole, to be free. But I need you to understand something. This pain, this exhaustion, it's not your fault. You've been taught to be this way. You've been conditioned to believe that your worth comes from someone else's approval. But what if it's all a lie? What if you were never meant to live in the shadows of others? What if you were always meant to rise and lead, to step into your own light and finally say, I am enough, I am worthy of this? The more you try to please them, the more you try to fulfill their impossible standards, the more you lose yourself, the more you drown, the more you shrink, and in the process you give them everything, your time, your energy, your passion, your dreams, and they take it without so much as a second thought. Because the ego of others is insatiable, it will always want more, and you will always be left with less. But it doesn't have to be this way. You are not here to live in the shadows, you are here to lead. And that starts with realizing that the only way out of this cycle is to break free from the people and the voices that have held you hostage for far too long. You've been striving for so long to meet the expectations of people who never had your best interests at heart. The problem is, you've internalized their judgments, their criticisms, their lies, and now their ego has become a prison. And you've been living in it, but you don't have to anymore. The key to the door is in your hand. But first, you need to wake up. Wake up from the lie that you have to stay small. Wake up to the truth that your greatness is not conditional. Wake up to the fact that you are worthy, powerful, and capable, not because someone else says you are, but because you say so. The time has come. It's time to take your life back. It's time to stop letting their ego define your worth. There's a place where the light doesn't reach. A place where the air is thick, suffocating, and every breath feels like you're dragging your body through quicksand. This is the space where despair lives. This isn't just about feeling bad or having a rough day. No, this is something much deeper. This is the place where the weight of your own life begins to crush you, where every step you take feels like you're dragging the world behind you. Every movement becomes heavier, every decision harder, and the silence you've learned to endure feels like a constant shout in your ears. You're stuck. You've been here before, haven't you? This isn't new. You know this place. The hollow feeling in your chest, the way your thoughts echo, bouncing off walls you've built around yourself, trapping you in a cage of your own making. And you've convinced yourself it's all your fault. You wake up every day, but the world around you feels distant. You're moving through the motions, but you're not really living. You look at others, at the people who are standing tall, moving with purpose, and you feel a pang of envy, of longing, but also a deep, gnawing sense of defeat. That could have been you, but instead, here you are, stuck in a cycle, caught in the lie that you can't do it. It's not that you don't want to move forward, it's not that you don't have dreams or desires, you do. But there's a voice in your head, a voice that tells you that you'll never make it, a voice that tells you that you don't belong in that place of greatness. You don't deserve success. You don't deserve to be happy. And so you remain here, silent, small, and invisible because you've been told that's where you belong. But you're dying inside. Every day you stay silent is another piece of you that dies. Every moment you let someone else's voice drown out your own is another piece of your soul that you give away. And let me ask you, how much of yourself can you afford to lose before you become a shadow of the person you were meant to be? This is the pain you can't ignore any longer. It's eating you alive. It's the feeling of waking up and wondering why you're even bothering. The feeling of being stuck between who you were, who you want to be, and the person you're afraid you'll become if you keep walking this path of submission. The exhaustion doesn't just come from your body, it comes from your spirit, from the parts of you that are screaming for something more, but are silenced by the weight of the world's expectations. You start to question your worth. You start to wonder if anyone will ever see you for who you truly are. It's been a while since that period of anxiety, overwhelm, and doubt began to fall. You wonder if you'll ever matter. And then, as if that wasn't enough, you see it all around you, people moving forward, people living their lives, finding success, finding happiness, and the bitterness begins to seep in. Why them? Why not you? What's wrong with you? What did you do wrong? Every achievement you see just feels like a reminder of your own failure. You've tried so damn hard to meet the expectations of others. You've bent, you've compromised, you've begged for approval, but nothing ever feels enough. You're drowning in a sea of your own self-doubt. But here's the thing you don't want to admit. You are not stuck because you're not capable. You are stuck because you've been told for so long that you can't move forward. They made you believe that. The expectations, the judgments, the criticisms, they all come from a place of fear. Fear that you will rise higher than they ever did. Fear that you will shine brighter than their ego can tolerate. And in their desperate attempt to keep you small, they've paralyzed you. They've made you feel like every step you take will be met with failure, so you stop moving. But here's the most painful part. You don't realize that by staying here, in this place of silence, you're allowing them to win. You're allowing their insecurities, their fears, and their limitations to dictate your life. You're allowing the reflection they see of you, one they've shaped with their own hands, to become your reality. You let them decide how far you can go, how big you can dream, how high you can soar. But that's not who you are. Do you know what it feels like to lose yourself? To look in the mirror and not recognize the person staring back? It's like a slow creeping death. The death of your dreams, of your power, of your ability to see yourself as more than just the sum of someone else's expectations. You're so tired of living under this weight that you almost forget what it feels like to be free, to move without fear, to speak your truth without apology. And yet, in the suffocating space, you're not even sure you can rise. The thought of it terrifies you. What if you fail? What if stepping out means more rejection, more pain, more disappointment? What if trying to move forward just proves to everyone that you were never meant to succeed? What if, after all the work, all the sacrifice, you still end up exactly where you are, stuck, invisible, nothing? This is the darkness, the deep pit where self-doubt thrives. And every moment you stay here, every second you let this cycle of pain continue, it costs you something. Every word you don't speak, every dream you don't chase, every opportunity you don't take, it all chips away at your self-worth. It's a slow erosion, but the damage is real. You might feel like giving up. Hell, sometimes it feels like the only way to survive is to give in to the suffocating weight of your own fear and just stop trying. But let me ask you, what's left if you do that? If you stay here, if you continue to let their ego control your life? You'll lose everything. You'll lose your purpose. You'll lose your sense of self. You'll lose the spark that once drove you, the ambition that once fueled your dreams. And at the end of it all, when you've given everything to meet someone else's standards, you'll look at your life and realize you've never lived your own. So, I ask you again, how much of yourself are you willing to lose? How much longer will you let this weight crush you? The longer you stay silent, the more of yourself you surrender. The longer you play small, the farther away your true self will slip. But here's the truth, you don't have to stay here. The depth of despair is not the end of your story. It is simply a place, a moment. But it is not the place you are meant to die. The question is, when will you rise? Because if you stay in this place much longer, you will lose everything. And that is not a price worth paying. You've been standing in the shadows for too long, watching others take the lead, watching others define their path, while you held your breath, waiting for permission to live. But here's the truth. Permission was never required. You've been waiting for a sign, for someone to open the door for you. But all this time, you've been holding the key. Now it's time to wake up. This moment, right here, is the turning point. You've been shackled by the ego of others, by the whispers of doubt and the chains of approval. You've been paralyzed by the false belief that your worth is dictated by what others think of you, that your success depends on their recognition. But that's not true. You've been playing their game, following their rules. But let me tell you something. You were never meant to play their game. You were meant to create your own. And the moment you realize that, everything changes. You are not a pawn in someone else's chess game. You are the king, the queen, the ruler of your own destiny. The game is yours to win, but only if you stop waiting for permission to take your place on the throne. The power was always inside you. It's just been waiting for you to claim it. Right now, you might feel like you're standing at the edge of a precipice, unsure of whether to leap into the unknown or remain where it's safe. But safety is an illusion. Staying where you are is far more dangerous than stepping into the unknown, because in that place of silence, of submission, you are slowly losing yourself. You are slowly killing the very thing that makes you who you are, the fire inside that refuses to be extinguished. You who shattered it. So stop asking for permission to be great. You don't need anyone's approval. You don't need anyone's validation. You've been convinced that your worth comes from what others think of you, but that was never true. Your worth comes from the essence of who you are, from the courage to stand up and say, I am enough, I am worthy, I am powerful. There is no external force that can diminish your value unless you allow it. There is no limit. The moment you stop seeking approval is the moment you reclaim your power. The moment you decide that you no longer need to fit into their mold is the moment you begin to create your own. And that's when you start to lead. But it's not just about stepping up for the sake of stepping up. It's about recognizing that you've been chosen for this role, whether you were aware of it or not. You were never meant to be anyone's sidekick. You were always meant to be the hero, and this is your story. You are the one who has the power to rewrite it, reclaiming the throne. Imagine that throne for a moment. It's not a physical chair, but the seat of your own life. Your life has been out of your control for so long, shaped by the expectations of others, molded by their approval, dictated by their judgments. But that throne was always yours to sit upon. It's not something you have to earn from anyone else. It's your birthright. Your soul was forged for this very purpose, to lead your own life with fierce conviction, unapologetically, relentlessly. No one can take your throne unless you let them. And when you sit upon it, when you take your rightful place as the ruler of your own existence, everything changes. You stop begging for validation. You stop shrinking yourself to fit into the boxes others have created. You stop sacrificing your own happiness for the sake of others. You rise, and that rise, it's inevitable. It's part of who you are. You've been beaten down, yes. You've been told you weren't enough, told that you should settle, told that your dreams were too big, but none of that changes the truth that you were born to lead. This is your journey. You are not the victim. You are the hero, becoming the storm. The world might not be ready for your power, but that's not your problem. You were never meant to play it small. You were never meant to hide in the shadows. When you step into your power, you don't just make waves. You become the storm. You are a force of nature, untamed, unapologetic, unstoppable. Imagine that. The storm, a force that cannot be contained. When you step into your own power, the ego of others can no longer hurt you because you become too strong to be shaken. You are no longer a victim of their words, their judgments, their opinions. You become the force that shapes your own path, that carves out a future that is entirely yours. The storm doesn't apologize for its presence. It doesn't ask for permission to rage. It doesn't wait for approval before it unleashes its power. And neither should you. This isn't a battle, this is your birthright. And once you realize that you have the power to shape your own life, to take the lead, to create your own story, the universe will bend to your will. The storms that once threatened to destroy you will become the winds that propel you forward. This shift begins with a simple choice, a choice to stop looking outside of yourself for validation, a choice to stop doubting your worth, a choice to claim the power that's been yours all along. You have everything you need within you, self-reflection, the catalyst for growth. The ego of others is only as strong as you allow it to be, and the reason it's been able to control you for so long is because you've been looking outside of yourself for approval. You've been seeking their recognition, their applause, their praise. You've been chasing their approval like it's the key to your happiness, but that key was never theirs to give. It's always been inside you. The shift happens when you stop letting their opinions define you. The shift happens when you look in the mirror and say, I am enough. I don't need your validation. I don't need your approval. I have everything I need to succeed. And when you make that decision, something incredible happens. You begin to see your struggles not as burdens, but as the stepping stones toward your greatness. Every failure, every obstacle, every challenge you've faced becomes the fuel for your fire. You are not the victim of your circumstances. You are the hero of your story. Those moments of doubt, those moments of pain, those moments when you felt broken, they are not the end, but they are the foundation upon which you will build your empire. The storm that has battered you, it has only prepared you to reign. And when you finally take the lead, when you step into the fullness of your power, you will understand what it means to be truly free, to be truly yourself, to no longer bend to the will of others, to be the one who leads, who creates, who dominates their own path. You no longer need to ask for permission. You don't need their approval. You are the storm, and no one can stop you now. So step into your power. The world is waiting. You've been living in the shadows for far too long, waiting for something external to ignite your fire, to tell you that now is the time. But what if I told you the truth? The fire has always been inside of you. It wasn't in the waiting, it wasn't in the approval. It was always within your grasp, smoldering beneath the surface, waiting for you to claim it. Here's the moment, right now, where the game changes. It's not just a moment in time, it's the moment that will transform everything. The moment when you realize you've always had the power to lead. You've always had the power to decide your own fate. You've always had the strength to break free from the chains that others have tried to place around you. You hold the key. Why have you allowed their egos to dictate your life? Why have you spent your days dancing to their tune, letting their insecurities shape your reality? Why have you believed that you were anything less than enough? The truth is, you've been living in a prison of someone else's making. But here's the thing. They never held the bars. You did. So ask yourself, why would you let them control your destiny? Why would you allow their limitations, their doubts, their smallness to shape the immense greatness inside of you? Why? You are not some passive observer. You are the creator of your reality. And the moment you step into that truth, when you fully understand that no one has the power to control you unless you give it to them, something extraordinary happens. The chains break, the barriers fall, and you, for the first time, are free. This is the turning point. You are not weak. You are not inferior. You were never meant to bend to anyone's will, to silence your dreams for fear of stepping on toes. You are never meant to shrink for anyone's comfort. The very moment you decide to stop playing small, to stop being what they told you to be, to stop following their path, you become the force that shatters their ego. Let me say that again. Do you realize that? By stepping into your own power, by choosing to take the lead in your own life, you become the earthquake that makes their fragile walls crumble. All their manipulation, their criticism, their control, it was built on the illusion that you needed them to validate your existence. But when you choose to lead, when you choose to follow your own truth, the ground beneath them shakes. Brave and the boldest of decisions can require all of the above, and it requires vulnerability. The moment you stop letting their ego define your path, the moment you stand up and claim your worth, you destroy the very foundation they've built on your insecurity. You become the force that makes their fragile illusion of control collapse. Why do they fear your power? Why do they try to suppress your light? Because of that, the moment you rise, their hold over you disappears. They can no longer manipulate you, no longer control you. You become a force they cannot reckon with. Their ego, once so firm and unshakable, becomes nothing more than dust in the wind. Do you see that? The egos of others are nothing but paper tigers. They are only as powerful as you allow them to be. And the moment you step into your own truth, the moment you decide that their opinion of you no longer matters, you begin to erode the very foundation of their power. Why? Because they feed off your fear. They feed off your doubt. They thrive when they see you shrink back, when they see you hesitate, when they see you question your own worth. But when you no longer shrink, when you stand tall in your own power, their influence dies. You don't need to fight them. You don't need to argue with them. You don't need to beg for their approval. All you need to do is step forward. When you take the lead in your own life, when you begin to follow your own truth, you shatter their fragile sense of control, because they cannot lead if you refuse to follow. Think about that. They cannot lead if you refuse to follow. This is the moment when everything changes. This is the epiphany that will ignite your spirit like nothing else can. You do not need them. The weight they have placed upon your shoulders is not yours to carry. Their expectations are not your burden to bear. And the chains they have put around you, they were never locked. You just forgot how to unlock them. So what happens when you step into your own power, when you take the lead? The moment you stop asking for permission, the moment you stop waiting for them to approve of you, the moment you decide that your life will no longer be governed by their ego, you become something they never anticipated. You become the storm that forces their illusion to fall apart. Let that sink in. You don't need to fight them. All you need to do is step into your truth. By simply being your authentic self, by simply choosing to take the lead in your own life, their power crumbles. You are not the victim of their ego. You are the destroyer of it. This is your moment of awakening. This is the turning point where you realize that you have never been powerless. You have never been small. You have always had the power to lead your life, to shape your destiny, to create a future that aligns with your soul. The turning point is where you are opposed, and the ego of others cannot hurt you unless you allow it. And when you refuse to allow it, their ego shatters. So I ask you again, why are you waiting? Why are you still allowing them to control your destiny? Why let them have a say in who you are? The moment you decide to step into your truth, everything changes. The moment you choose to take the lead in your own life, the very ground beneath their feet will tremble. This is your time. Take the lead. The time has come. You've awakened. You've felt the tremor in your soul as you realize that you have always held the power to lead your life, to control your destiny, to shape your future. You've learned that the ego of others cannot define you unless you allow it. And you've learned that the key to your freedom has been in your hands all along. But this is where the real test begins. It's time to act. You've felt the surge of power, but now you need to walk the path. And it got worse. This isn't a one-time realization that fades with time. This is a call to action. A call to lead, not just for your own liberation, but for everyone who's ever felt silenced, oppressed, or manipulated by the weight of someone else's ego. Your awakening is not just for you, it's for them too. It's for everyone who's been waiting in the wings, who's been crushed by the weight of others' expectations. Are you ready to take the reins, or will you continue to let others control your story? You've seen the truth now, and with that truth comes an undeniable responsibility. You have been given the power to lead. But leadership isn't just about holding a title or gaining followers. It's about responsibility. It's about stepping up when everyone else is stepping back. It's about changing the world by changing yourself. So, where do you go from here? Step 1, set boundaries, take control of your space. The first thing you must do is set boundaries. You've spent too long letting other people's egos dictate your actions, your thoughts, and your emotional state. That ends now. You have the right to protect your energy. Setting boundaries is not a sign of weakness, it's a declaration of your strength. It's you saying, I will no longer allow anyone, no matter how close they are, to violate my space, my peace, or my truth. You don't need their approval to say no. No more bending to expectations that drain you. No more saying yes when you mean no. No more pretending to be something you're not to fit in. Your peace is sacred. Think of each boundary you create as a brick in the wall of your personal power. With each no, you are fortifying yourself against the noise of others' egos. Step 2, speak your truth, find your voice. Now that you've taken control of your space, it's time to take control of your voice. You must speak your truth, no matter how uncomfortable it feels. You've spent too long in silence, too long hiding your thoughts, your feelings, your ideas, because you were afraid of their judgment, of their rejection, of their anger. But the truth is, you have nothing to fear. Your truth is sacred. It's the fire inside of you that no one can put out. Speak it boldly. Start small. Share your opinions. Express your emotions. Share your ambitions. And as you do, you will feel the weight of self-doubt start to dissipate, because you'll realize your voice is not only valid, it is necessary. Every time you speak your truth, you shatter the walls built by fear and doubt. You reclaim the power that was always yours to begin with. Your voice is the hammer that breaks through the egos that sought to silence you. Step 3, lead with confidence, take action. Words alone will not change your life. Action is what separates those who are awakened from those who remain passive. Start making decisions with purpose. Whether it's a career move, a personal goal, or even a relationship, you must lead with confidence. You no longer ask for permission. You no longer wait for the perfect moment. The moment is now. Confidence comes with action. The more you move forward, the more your confidence grows. So take the leap. Do the thing that scares you. Lead with courage, even when the road seems uncertain. If you want to be immersed in the joys of life without ever falling, stay committed to your life's path, even when the road seems uncertain, because you know the truth now. You have everything you need to succeed. Step into your power and watch as the world starts to respond to your confidence. You are not meant to be a passive observer in this world. You were born to lead. Step 4, embrace resilience. Keep moving forward. There will be setbacks. There will be moments when doubt creeps in, when fear whispers in your ear, when the world tells you that you are not enough. But resilience is not about never falling. It's about getting up every single time. Remember, the storm doesn't stop just because the clouds are dark. You are the storm now. Every failure, every rejection, every obstacle you face is an opportunity to rise stronger. Embrace the struggle. See every challenge as a test of your will, a chance to prove to yourself that you are capable of more than you ever imagined. With each setback, you become more powerful. Resilience is the foundation of your success. It's the grit, the determination, the refusal to let anything stop you from achieving what you are meant to achieve. Step 5, build a legacy, to lead others. You are not just meant to rise, you are meant to raise others up with you. You've felt the sting of oppression, of manipulation, of being silenced. But now, you have the power to help others find their voice, to help them rise from the ashes and claim their own power. Start small, encourage others, show them the path. Be the leader you wish you had when you were struggling. Remember, your story is the light for someone else's darkness. Every time you share your journey, every time you empower someone else to step into their own power, you are building a legacy of strength, of courage, of freedom. Step 6, Never settle. Keep expanding. You've taken control. You've reclaimed your power. But this is just the beginning. Never settle for mediocrity. Never stop growing. Your potential is limitless. The more you step into your power, the more you realize that you are capable of achieving greatness on levels you've never imagined. So, keep pushing, keep striving, keep expanding. The world is waiting for the version of you that hasn't even begun to show up yet. And now, here you stand. You are no longer the person you once were. You are not the victim of others' egos. You are not the passive follower, waiting for someone else to tell you who to be. You are not bound by fear or doubt. You are the leader. Your voice is strong, your purpose is clear, your power is undeniable. You are the storm that shatters the egos of those who try to silence you. And with every step you take, you leave a legacy. With every boundary you set, you reclaim your space. With every action you take, you shape your future. You lead now. So go forth with confidence, with fire, with purpose. The world is yours to conquer. I have a little nomadic vibe when I meet people, and I notice nobody is alone. I notice animosity can be faced, awarded to all with honor. Your future is safe because only you can change it. And remember this, no one, no ego, no force can ever control your story again. The time is now. Lead. And now, as the dust settles and the echoes of this moment reverberate in your soul, let me leave you with one truth that will change everything. The ego of others was never your problem. No, their words, their criticisms, their judgments, none of it ever had power over you unless you gave it. The only thing that held you back was your own fear of stepping up. The fear that perhaps you weren't enough, the fear that you would be rejected, the fear that your truth would be too much for the world to handle. But now, in this moment, you've shattered that fear. You've torn down the walls that once held you in place. You have broken free from the shackles that were never even meant to be yours. This is your liberation. This is your freedom. You've walked through the fire, and you've emerged not just unscathed, but stronger, more resilient, and more powerful than ever before. The power to lead was always inside of you. You've learned to use it now like nobody's business. Power to kill is forbidden and deadly. Under the control of our human, the monster Simt has no power. You have always had the ability to step into your greatness, to rise above the noise, to stand tall in the face of any challenge. Now the path is clear, the choice is yours. You no longer wait for permission. You no longer ask for validation. You no longer shrink for the comfort of others. You lead with authority. Let that sink in. You lead now. You are no longer the follower. You are no longer the one hiding in the background, waiting for the world to recognize your worth. You have stepped into your power, and now the world will recognize it, because you will no longer accept anything less than your full potential. This is your moment to rise. It's your time to shine, your time to create, your time to lead. Not just for yourself, but for everyone who has been waiting for someone like you to show them the way. You are the change. You are the storm. You are the one who shatters the limits, breaks the chains, and rises above the noise of those who try to hold you down. You are free. Now go. Take your place. Step into your power. Lead. And let the world tremble at your brilliance.